Imagine lifting a steel block the weight of 2,000 cars, floating it across a bay, and setting it down with millimeter precision while the tide rises and falls beneath you. That is exactly what Japanese engineers did to build the Kesennuma Bay Crossing Bridge. After the 2011 Tohoku tsunami wiped out the coastal road, they chose a bold solution, a 3-span cable-stayed bridge with a main span of 360 meters, stretching straight across the bay. No temporary supports. No room for error. Just massive steel pieces assembled like a puzzle over open water. This is the art of super heavy lifting. And this is how Japan rebuilt its coastline. The 2011 Tohoku tsunami was one of the deadliest disasters in modern history. Waves over 10 meters high destroyed entire towns along Japan's northeastern coast. Among the casualties was the coastal road running along Kesennuma Bay, a vital link that connected communities, businesses, and emergency services. Engineers faced a choice: rebuild the same vulnerable road, or create something stronger. They chose strength. The solution was a 3-span cable-stayed bridge, 680 meters long, with a main span of 360 meters. It would soar 115 meters above the bay, supported by steel cables and a towering central pillar. But there was a catch. Kesennuma Bay is an important aquaculture area home to oyster and scallop farms. Massive underwater concrete pours would destroy the marine environment. Engineers needed a different approach. They decided to build the bridge in reverse. Instead of constructing everything on site, they would prefabricate huge steel blocks on land, then float them into position using giant cranes. This minimized underwater work and protected the bay's ecosystem. Before any steel could rise into the sky, engineers had to conquer the seabed. They drove Larson sheet pile Cofferdams steel walls hammered deep into the bay floor to create dry working spaces. Inside these watertight enclosures, they poured the concrete pier foundations that would support the entire bridge. The main tower's foundation, Pier P12, was the most critical. It had to withstand not only the weight of the 115-meter tower but also the horizontal pull of the stay cables and the constant forces of wind and tide. Once the concrete cured and the piers reached their designed elevation, crews removed the temporary cofferdams. The massive foundations finally emerged above the water, marking the transition from underwater work to the main event, erecting the tower. Because construction happened in the middle of a working bay, minimizing offshore time was essential. The tower was not built piece by piece on site. Instead, it was prefabricated on land as large steel blocks, each weighing hundreds of tons and already fitted with stay cable anchor plates, connection details, and internal stiffening ribs. Specialized barges transported these blocks across the bay. At the site, heavy-lift floating cranes, some of the largest in Japan, lifted each segment from the barge and placed it onto the tower base. The erection followed a bottom-up sequence. After each block was positioned, survey teams checked three-dimensional alignment. Even a tiny deviation in the lower segments would multiply at the tower top, 115 meters above sea level. Once aligned, workers secured the blocks with high-strength bolts and completed the final welding on site. Thanks to this large block method, construction time was cut significantly while maintaining the geometric precision needed for the next stage, the stay cables. With the tower at full height, engineers turned to the stay cable anchorage system. These anchor points built into the steel tower blocks during fabrication had to align perfectly with the future cable geometry. A three-dimensional coordinate system checked every position. But alignment was just the start. The team installed real-time monitoring instruments at multiple elevations along the tower to track tilt, horizontal displacement, and deformation caused by the tower's own weight, wind, and tidal movement. Why so much care? Because before tensioning the first stay cables, even a small deviation could change the trajectory of the entire deck extension. In some cases, engineers applied temporary corrective forces or fine-tuned connections to bring the tower axis back to its exact design position. Only when the tower achieved absolute geometric accuracy could the first cable bundles be tensioned. Unlike a typical bridge that rests on supports underneath, the Kesennuma Bridge's deck had to span hundreds of meters across open bay. The solution was the balanced cantilever method, extending the deck symmetrically from the tower, like a pair of arms reaching toward each other. Large prefabricated steel deck segments were manufactured on land, then barged to the site. A floating crane lifted each segment into position and temporarily connected it to the previous section. Immediately after placement, the first stay cable bundles were tensioned to carry the load. The sequence was always symmetrical. When one segment was installed on one side, a matching segment went on the opposite side. This kept the tower in moment balance, reducing horizontal displacement even under offshore winds and tides. As each segment was added, the tension in the stay cables was adjusted step by step. Every new piece changed the overall balance. The crew worked like a finely tuned orchestra, monitoring, adjusting, and advancing. When the deck arms from both sides of the tower nearly reached the center of the bay, the project entered its most critical moment, the main span closure. Before the final lift, engineers carefully adjusted stay cable tensions to bring the two deck ends together according to exact design geometry. They accounted for steel temperature, wind conditions, and cumulative elastic displacement from earlier construction stages. Once the gap was within allowable limits, just a few millimeters, the closure segment was lifted by a heavy floating crane and guided into place. This operation demanded extreme precision. A deviation of even 2 to 3 millimeters could create residual stresses throughout the entire cable-stayed system. After the closure segment was permanently bolted and welded, the stay cable tensions were adjusted one final time. The main load-bearing frame was officially complete, a turning point in the reconstruction of the Sanraku Coastal Road. The tower that now stands 115 meters above Kesennuma Bay began its life as thick steel plates in a fabrication workshop. CNC machines cut the plates into precise curved shapes to match the tower's cross-section. Multi-layer welding techniques assembled these panels into three-dimensional modules. Inside each segment, stiffening ribs and reinforcement plates were installed to withstand the massive forces from the stay cables. Then came the anchor units, positioned with extreme precision because they determine how cable forces transfer into the tower. Every completed segment underwent 3D geometric inspection and ultrasonic weld testing before receiving anti-corrosion coating suitable for the harsh marine environment. Only then were the blocks transported offshore for final assembly. The Kesennuma Bay Crossing Bridge is not a single structure. It is a vital link in the Sanraku Coastal Road, a transport corridor rebuilt after the 2011 tsunami to restore connectivity across northeastern Japan. Building the bridge straight across the bay significantly shortened travel distances and removed dependence on the old coastal road, which was highly vulnerable to earthquakes and large waves. For the first time, Kesennuma gained a stable, continuous, and safer transport connection for daily travel, local logistics, and most critically emergency relief during future disasters. On a larger scale, the bridge is part of Japan's coastal soft defense infrastructure network, where transportation systems double as rapid response frameworks for natural disasters. When the next tsunami comes, this bridge will stay standing. The 2011 Tohoku tsunami left behind unimaginable destruction. But less than a decade and a half later, Kesennuma Bay is now crossed by a steel lifeline that stands as proof of Japanese engineering resilience. Every steel span, every millimeter perfect closure, every stay cable tension just right, they all tell a bigger story. Of engineers who refused to compromise. Of a community that rebuilt smarter. And of a bridge that will protect lives when disaster strikes again. The Kesennuma Bay Crossing Bridge is not just infrastructure. It is a statement: Japan does not rebuild the same. It rebuilds better. If you want to explore more stories of engineering miracles born from catastrophe, from tsunami-defying bridges to earthquake-resistant skyscrapers, subscribe to Quick Tech Process. We go to the places where disaster meets determination. We decode the technology that saves lives. And we bring you along for the journey. Hit subscribe. Join the journey. The next impossible bridge is already being planned.